a lot of times some of these liberals really do show their stripes. And one thing I've always experienced, especially growing up in New Jersey, is you get a sense of what's really important to them. Credentials is very important to liberals. Like, that is what they live for. They live to talk about, I went to this school or I got this thing. And so we all know about Alan Lichtman and how he was this keys guru about election prediction, and he had been right all these years and wasn't right in, I think, 2016, but Hillary won the popular vote. And this time he was completely wrong.
Because this was a replay of 2016, so it's Groundhog Day. So yes, you'll play the same game, get the same prize.
Well, give Cenk credit where credit's due. He did put this guy in his place, but you could see that it irked the shit out of him when Cenk pushed his buttons the right way. And this is, I think, reflective of a lot of these types of liberals and how they think.
Don't blame the voters. I think, look, we could get into this discussion, but one, I think you're blaming the voters. I think that's a terrible idea. And look, I debated Professor Lichtman before. I told him his theories about the keys were absurd. I was right. He was wrong. I said he'd lose his keys.
No, you were
Couldn't
not
find
right,
him before
and I
the
was
election.
not wrong. And that's a cheap shot, and I won't stand for it.
Well, who won, brother?
You should not be taking cheap shots at me.
Who won?
You want to make your
you
point,
live
make your
in
point.
a total
Don't make
world
it
of
personal.
denial.
I read your own followers' comments, and they all trashed you, every one of them, and supported me.
Yeah,
so quiet with your personal attacks.
Come find out again.
Make whatever point you want. Don't make it personal.
You don't know anything. You don't know anything.
You attacked me personally.
You're so deluded.
Oh, right. I've only been a professor for 51 years.
On this program, I've never been able to finish a thought.
How many books have you published?
Okay,
it's true.
So that's
true.
so
How many
that's
books have you published?
Wait, you missed the best part.
Wait, keep
but
going.
remember, 51 years as a professor and 13 books.
I'm concerned. I'm concerned for the students that he's had in his class.
Yeah, that
We've institutionalized failure in this country.
Oh, yes. Completely.
Yes,
but he's
The Democratic Party loves to reward failure.
Hey, at least Cenk didn't go after his wig. I mean, he could have done that too.
He should. I hope that Cenk runs for president again and makes it into the primary debates. It would be a bloodbath.
It would be.
Just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
All right, we'll finish it up.
No, because you're personally attacking me again. Say whatever you want, but I'm not going to stand for
brother, you got it wrong.
You
were preposterously and stupidly wrong. So, all right. Can I just finish a goddamn thought ever on this show?
No, not if you're personally. I admitted I was wrong. I don't need you to call me stupid.
Okay.
Can I just say, it's great to see you Democrats all getting along so well.
Manners?
It's lovely to see your post-election harmony as you all come together again.
We're just one right now.
This reminds me of the old crossword.
Hey, Alan, you deserve a tall glass of shut-up juice, so can you just shut up for a second? And let someone who knows what they're doing.
You're so right, Piers. You're so right. We're so unified right now.
You want, I will not sit here and stand for personal attacks, for blasphemy against me. You don't need to do that. You don't
blasphemy against you. Who the hell are you? Are you Jesus Christ, you loser? Okay, can I just give the correct answer for once?
Who's the kid? Who's the kid with the? Who's Harry?
Sisson. Harry Sisson.
Oh.
The biggest.
Okay, I don't know any. I don't want. Yeah.
Oh, you don't watch. You're not watching the Biden TikTok.
Harry Sisson is someone you do not like. I thought.
Brian, would you like to take this one? Would you like to rant on Harry Sisson for a minute?
Oh, Harry Sisson is the epitome of a beta male bitch, and I'm sorry, I got nothing else to say.
That's okay. There's
I have. There's just so much more to say about.
Okay, please do.
I mean, he's a fascinating creature. He is a paid influencer for Biden and the White House regime. And I just think it's really fascinating how incredibly tapped in they are to youth outreach and how they also fell flat on their face. There's just so much to unpack with Harry Sisson. It's weird. It's creepy to watch. But if you get a little too like, stupid young person, like you start to sound like an old man, like get off my lawn. Like I've watched Harry Sisson and like the TikTok army like very closely because they are lockstep in for Biden and then for Kamala. Like like they are clearly like paid to support him, and everybody should have that. I mean that's impressive.
The other thing about
Gen Z is pushing back against that. Gen Z doesn't want anything. Gen Z is more rebellious than any generation I think that has preceded them.
Which is why that's interesting. So here's what this is what I've come to the conclusion of, and I've seen it locally. So I'm just going to kind of presume that it exists on the national level too. Since young people are not going to join the Democratic Party on their own free will, they're not. The majority of young people are no party. The majority of young people are not registering with party affiliation. And then before they register as Democrats, they're registering as Republicans, actually. Like that's the sort of order of this. So the only way that the Democrats can have young people is to buy them. And so what they end up with, people that are like just sort of tools that are just, but they don't have their own Gen Z audience, because anybody who has any real knowledge or interest or like people that aren't complete, like, I guess, cucked betas that like grew up with with MSNBC on in their house. I mean, who are those types of Gen Zers talking to? Because most Gen Zers are not there, only ones that are paid.
And I think the most important thing about Harry Sisson, which I pointed out about a year ago, which I hope most people have picked up on at this point, there's two things of note with him. He comes from a very affluent family in one of the most affluent communities in the entire country in Westchester County, New York. And his father is heavily politically active and an influence within the Democratic Party.
So he's just a Nepo baby.
And most of these kids, I don't know their names. I don't care, because they all look the same. They're all early 20, white male, prep school boys.
They all look like alpacas.
Yeah. And as Daryl Riley has pointed out in the chat, yes, that's one of many nicknames for Harry. Yes, he is that embodiment of that very beta type male that does not exude any type of masculine strength of any kind whatsoever. And I do think that Trump was very good at seizing, his relationships with the RFKs and the Dana Whites of the world. I mean, we saw what the reaction was when he walked into MSG over the weekend. I mean, that is a reflection of what I think has been sort of a backlash in many ways, because there has been this sort of anti-male crusading that's been going on within the Democratic Party, which again is all for it's
toxic masculinity.
Anything not to talk about living wage, healthcare, endless war, clean drinking water, anything that really matters to the average person.
Yeah.
You get distracted by these pointless things. The question becomes now, are these Harry Sisson types, going to still have a place to make a lot of money going forward in politics? Do you think that's still going to happen?
I think so. I mean, I think that the space is there because the people in charge are still determined to do something with this demographic. And I think that there's just a lot of hubris. And I also think they hate masculinity. And so Harry Sisson is not just out there to signal to beta males. He's there to create them and tell guys like, hey, you want to get laid? Be a beta male, eat your Impossible Whopper and, get hysterical when you open your Marvel toys on Christmas morning and like tell everybody that you're an ally. And then you'll get laid, and if you don't, you'll get, like thrown out and, unpersoned. And so, I'm going to be a good little boy and eat my soy and play with my toys and get a vasectomy, even though I'm a virgin. And then,
all right, I'm married to a urologist. Don't knock the vasectomy.
Well,
yeah, but it's weird and creepy when you see dudes who have like low T and they're bragging about getting a vasectomy. And I'm like, bro, have you ever been laid?
He actually brought that up himself.
But just to start, well, if you're on social media long enough, you'll run across people like that. But the other thing that also, and again, and Jen gets on
this is why I'm not on social media.
When you also see a lot of the women out there who are, and this I think comes full circle with just how, if there is one thing that I do think Trump has accomplished, and he will be remembered for this, I think he broke corporate media. Like I think he really broke them. And just the fact that the most, outside of The View, the most watched regular show being Morning Joe on MSNBC.
So glorious.
The fact that they literally got on their hands and knees for him.
Like they kissed the ring. It's so glorious.
After they said he was literally Hitler and that he's going to end the world. That's why I don't think that the shit that they were able to get away with, especially the fundraising in 2017 and 2018, I don't think the Democratic establishment's going to have the same luck with that this time around. I think
what's really freaky is those people would probably go kiss the ring of actual Hitler.
Oh, if it's suited their interest, I actually absolutely.
I think they would be like Zig Heiling, and they'd be like, it pays the bills.
Right. We kind of skipped over. I mean, we focused on that Ben kid, but we kind of skipped over the psychotic exchange between Cenk and the man baby,
Lichtman.
the man baby having a tantrum about being wrong.
Well, he had that blasphemy comment, and I think
against me.
I know what he meant, but I don't think that's what he meant. I think he genuinely thinks himself as some sort of a deity. 51 years as a professor, 13 books. I am to be respected. No, dude, you completely got it wrong. Like utterly unbelievably wrong. And Cenk did in fact whoop your ass. And he said, well, I was in your comments. How pathetic are you that you're a 51-year-old law professor and you have to have your own self-confirmation, your own you need to prove to yourself that, yeah, I actually won. Let me go make sure that everybody else agrees that I won. And then you don't understand how social media works. The comments that appear at the top are going to be comments that are affiliated with your account, whether they're in your algorithm. Like you go on any Twitter post, X post, and you look at the comments, and they're filtered based on people that you've engaged with or people with similar engagement scores for you. And so this guy's literally reading this, thinking that he's the bee's knees and the shit, and that you can't blaspheme against him. And it's just pathetic, man. It is.
That was really like watching a temper tantrum.
Jen,
it was ridiculous.
Do you remember when you were running for Congress and you were talking to some, I think, liberal women, and they got offended because you wouldn't call First Lady Jill Biden Dr. Biden?
Dr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So look, it's not that I don't recognize people with doctorates as being technically doctors. Okay. I get it. You know what I mean? But the whole concept of that is so pretentious to me. And I have a Juris Doctor. So, and it's just so funny to me. But like, I joke with people like, fine, then start calling me Esquire. Like, it's just the whole thing is just so pretentious and just so elitist and such a turnoff. And we all know that when someone is saying doctor, they're referring to generally someone that can prescribe medication. And it goes back to if you're looking for someone who can help in an emergency situation. So, for example, they actually let them speed more to work if you're on your way as a trauma doctor, right? Like if you have your PhD in philosophy, you don't need to be speeding anywhere, right? Like nobody cares that you're a doctor.